In this video, we're going to look at the math of CRP, Capacity Requirements Planning. So like our two previous videos where we looked at resource planning for the S&OP level, and we looked at rough cut capacity planning for the master production schedule level, now we're down to the materials requirements planning or MRP level, and we're looking at capacity requirements planning. So we're right down to the work center or even the machine level at this point to make sure we're okay for resources. So we'll jump to another whiteboard page in just a second, but essentially what we're trying to get to is for each work center and resource, we get a picture of what's our capacity, and by time period, what is our load in terms of amount of work we have to do. And we're concerned about something like in this third period here where I've got more work than I have capacity. And so then I either have to increase capacity or take down the load or move this portion of where we don't have enough capacity, either move it in or move it out. But in some fashion, we've got to balance this whole thing. So let's go to another picture and let's look at capacity in general. Okay. Now, we first talk about available capacity. And so I want you to think of available capacity as perfect world. Okay, so this is perfect world capacity up here. This could be 5 machines times 8 hours a day times 5 days a week times 2 shifts. Okay, so 5 times 8 is 40, times 5 days a week is 200 hours, times 2 shifts. I have 400 hours in a perfect world. Now, we all know, of course, we can't schedule in a perfect world because that leaves us no time for breaks, meetings, downtime, or anything. So we have to make our first adjustment downward, which is called utilization. And utilization looks at, okay, of the 400 hours, how much can you really use? So we're looking at how much. And we might look back at history or some other calculation and realize, you know what, we can only utilize 90% of 400 hours in my example. So now we're down to 360 hours. Okay? From there, we've got one more adjustment to do, which is called efficiency. Okay? And efficiency looks at how well do you use the remaining time. So of the 360 hours, it could go one of 3 ways. I could only I can only be 90% efficient, or I could be 100% efficient or 110% efficient. So if I'm 90% efficient in 360 hours, okay, if I take 360 times 0.9, I get 324. So in 360 hours, I get 324 hours worth of work done. Or I could be 100% efficient. In 360 hours, I get 360 hours worth of work. And the final one, in 360 hours, I'm at 110% efficient. So in 360 hours, I get 396 hours worth of work done. So while the first adjustment is down, this next one for efficiency could go down to 324, it could stay at 360, or it could go back up to 396 based on what how well I use the time. So ultimately what this capacity is called it's called rated capacity. And so rated capacity is perfect world multiplied by how much we use multiplied by how well we use it. Or, more formally, available time multiplied by efficiency multiplied by utilization, or vice versa. Okay? So that's the capacity part. The next part is the load. And so I'm going to do that in black. Load has got a couple components to it. Number one, our workload is made up of 2 things. The actual work we have already on the factory floor, plus any planned work coming through MRP. So we want to give a full picture to the factory floor. And in both cases, however, the workload is this. The formula is this. Setup plus total run time. Setup time is the time from the last good piece of the last run all the way up to the first good piece of the next run. So it's tear down plus setup. So maybe that's going to be 2 hours. And total run time is made up of the quantity multiplied by the run rate. So if I'm running 100 pieces and I need a half an hour per piece, then I need what? 50 hours plus the 2-hour setup. So I do this for every single job that I have, both planned and actual. And then my challenge becomes, well, which week does it go into? And that's math that we'll get into in another video out here. But there we basically look at, we use the idea of routings, and we start at the final movement into stock, and we kind of do MRP backwards, and we figure out where the setup and run falls, and that's where I put it in. Okay? And like we said at the beginning, the goal is to find those situations where we're either under capacitized or we're over capacitized and get it in balance. And we have to deal with it, because if we don't, the customer is going to balance it out by walking away on us. But fundamentally, capacity is about what's available versus what the workload is.